Howdy folks, Tex Grebner here with Tex Grebner Outdoors. New videos every week, so if you don't want to miss out on any of your Tex Grebner Outdoors Saturday morning cartoon awesomeness, you better make sure that you click subscribe, check that notification box, and check my channel every week for brand new adventures. I love reading your comments. I really do appreciate all of you that watch. Shooting indoors tonight across the living room. Weather's turned pretty bad outside, but I need to catch you up on what's been going down out in the deer woods, because it is still Illinois Archery season 2017. Now I'll be honest with you, it seems like my totem animal might be Wile E. Coyote. I don't know if I could go so far as to call what I'm doing bow hunting anymore at this point in the season. Tree stand meditation, maybe? I'm not really sure. The best part of the season is over, and so it basically amounts to tree watching, occasionally bird watching, or squirrel watching with a bow and arrow. I highly doubt, after what I have seen, that the deer actually winter on this property. But with hunting, it is a visceral mystery, and you never really know. So I decided that I was going to go out because the wind was right. And the wind is half the battle. The irony of hunting is, even if you do everything right, there's still no guarantee that anything at all is going to show up. And so, bow hunting in the later seasons ends up amounting to nature watching, introspection, and tree stand meditation, plotting and scheming for the next year, and questioning what you've done right and what you've done wrong. And it reminds you to be humble in the grand scheme of things, because there is such a terrible beauty to nature, because it simply does not care. It is going to do what it is going to do. And that is why hunting and religion are inexplicably linked, because when you literally had to live off of the land, there was a religious worship to it, because you needed to please the gods of the woods. You needed to please the gods of the wild. You needed to please the deity of the hunt, because your life and your family's life depend upon you. It was a strange day. 40 degrees in the middle of December. More like October weather, to be honest. I didn't know what I might find when I got to my stand, and with hunting you never really know. But I had a choice. I didn't have high hopes, and so the choice was, do I chalk up the season or do I go out and hunt? And I assure you that I will be here until the last dog is hung. Whether I see anything or not, it is always good to commune with nature and take time to be quiet and watch and wait and listen, because the hunting season is such a very special time. While bow season in Illinois is long, it only comes once a year. On this hunt, I saw no deer to speak of. I heard no deer to speak of. And it's funny how, and I've said this before, you can go from hating the squirrels in the early season for giving you a heart attack to hoping to see a squirrel or any sign of life to entertain yourself. However, I was blessed with the sight of a bald eagle flying over my stand, and I won't go so far as to say that it made it worth it, but any sign of life is a good sign in a tree stand December. The creek had gone from frozen to bubbling yet again, and it created sort of a lullaby as the sun sank lower and lower and this hunt came to a close. Optimism can't change facts. And while you never know what may happen on a hunt, I've got a real good hunch that this is going to be yet another empty hunt. So what this is going to amount to is I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch the sun go down and work toward a oneness with nature. The landowner's tractor was softly droning in the field across the woods. He was disking up the corn stalks for the second time of the year to make sure that everything was ready for the spring planting. So far, it had been a very gentle winter, and we had actually had no snow. When I got in, it was just above freezing, which for this time of year is pleasant weather. The wind was completely wrong, but I didn't have a choice. This was the spot that I thought I had the best chances in, and yet with the wind completely wrong and my chances so slim, I didn't see it doing any hurt because there probably wasn't going to be any action. Hope is the lie that we tell ourselves in order to keep going. And so with a sliver of hope in my heart, I sat and watched and waited for dusk, knowing that it probably wasn't going to happen, but yet wanting to be here just in case it did. There's a lot that goes through my mind when I am sitting. A lot that I think about. And I hate to say that I was planning the next season before this season was over, but it's true. I knew that I wasn't going to see anything, and I was simply sitting in the woods with a weapon, in a tree stand meditation, wondering what I could do differently for the next year. But there was that sliver of hope as the air became even more chilly and the sun sank lowest and the darkness came on fast, that maybe, just maybe, a deer might happen into range. But optimism does not change facts. After you get done with your real life responsibilities and you've got maybe 2 hours worth of daylight left, do you go hunting? Or do you go home and think about what you could do different next year and just call it a season? Well, the honest answer is, as you can tell, I went home, suited up, came out, and got about the business of not seeing nothing and doing a whole lot of nothing but being in nature. It was a pleasant day in the stand, what little time that I got to spend. And you never know what's going to happen on a hunt, even if your better judgment says you ain't going to see shit. But I'd bring you along with me because I made you a promise that I would bring you the reality of bow hunting the way that I bow hunt. Some days are good, some days are miserable, and I confess that I do struggle with boredom. So thank God for those wretched squirrels that are constantly giving you a heart attack when they rustle the leaves and play with your hopes until all of a sudden you figure out, damn it, it's a squirrel. But it doesn't stop you. Hunting in the later seasons is a pure act of will, because you know you're probably not going to see anything. But through willpower alone, and a desire to hunt as many days as you possibly can, you still go out and you still go hunting and make the best of what you got. At this point, I don't know what I can actually tell you. I bring you the reality of bow hunting the way that I bow hunt. The season is winding down, and there's not a damn thing that I can do about it. I have to live with the choices that I have made, and honestly, truthfully, I have no regrets. There are things that could have went better, but by far this is the most successful season of my entire on-film career as a bow hunter. It had snowed since I had been able to go out hunting, and so I was excited because I love hunting on the snow. One, it gives you a chance to see a record of where the animals have been moving. Two, it is so utterly beautiful, but in a terrible way. Three, as long as it is fresh snow and hasn't crusted over, you can move through the woods like a ghost to get where you want to be. It forces deer to actually be active during the daylight and forage. And so it seems to at least improve your chances, or at the very least, it makes it so that when deer are moving around, you can see them at greater distances because the white blanket on the ground makes them really pop out for your eye. But I love hunting in the later season because of the snow, but I also hate hunting in the later seasons because it means that I haven't gotten anything yet. But I will be here until the last dog is hung. But hunting in the later seasons, as I've said many times, is an act of endurance and willpower. Because when you are sitting in the terribly beautiful desolation of a frozen landscape, it makes you feel very small and insignificant. Because we humans, we're not terribly durable, we're not very strong. And our only reason for survival is through our intellect and being able to create clothing that will help us endure the elements. You see, do not remove your gloves when you are actually out in the elements. Sitting there for hour upon hour, sitting still, watching, listening to the silence, and wondering if tonight would be the night, I was musing on the fact that I am simply one insignificant creature in God's cruel kingdom, because the elements, they simply do not care. Nothing arrived tonight, but I was glad that I had hunted. At the beginning of archery season, it doesn't really suck because you're coming fresh off of summer, the weather is still pleasant. It might rain, which can be uncomfortable, but it's not agonizingly cold and miserable. But importantly, what I'm getting at is, at the beginning of the season, it seems much easier to hit what you're aiming at. But as the season goes on and you spend more time in the woods hunting and less time shooting, and throw into that the fact that the weather forces you to wear gloves, so that you don't frostbite your fingers. That complicates things, and it leaves me wondering as I sit watching, waiting, and listening to the savage silence around me, if a deer actually did show up, would I even still be able to make an accurate killing shot? This is something that nags at me so badly in the later seasons of, if something showed up, could I even hit it? Now obviously I'm a pretty good shot, but at the same time, I want the animal where I literally can't miss. Luckily, this hunt was empty, and I was spared finding out the answer to that question. I have never before hunted so far into a whitetail season, but because I remain empty-handed, I still go out by force of will, force of habit, and the simple fact that I have nothing better to do with my time than see how far into the season that I can hunt. Now, while there are telling tracks in the snow of deer activity, hunting is a visceral mystery, and it remains a high-stakes game of whack-a-mole. There is no logical reason that would possess a deer simply because I am sitting in my stand to walk within range of me. And so I go out on the illogical hope of whitetail perhaps being foolish enough to happen within range of me. During the rut, if you find the does, you find the bucks. During the early season, there is no real knowing where the deer might be because food is absolutely everywhere. But after the rut, the deer are driven by their need to feed for warmth. Now, with the fields turned under, there is no guarantee that the deer will be traveling through the properties that you have access to. The snow stung my face as it accumulated on the brim of my hat, and my hands ached inside the muff despite the gloves. The sun sank lower and lower as the snow continued to fall in the beautiful, silent savagery of nature, and elements that, as I have said, simply do not care. But still I remained, watching, waiting, listening, until the very last of my shooting light. I'm not going to lie to you. At this point, I about had the season written off as a failure, and I was ready to hang it up. But I got done with my real-life responsibilities with enough daylight to head to the timber. So all day I'd been thinking about concocting this Wile E. Coyote style scheme of, well, I was going to take my Montana decoys out, and I was going to stick them in the field in front of me. I was going to set up alongside the cornfield, and I was going to hope that deer might think, well, ding, 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 here's the dinner bell. There's deer over there. Let's go check it out. So, guess what? It was snowing again, and it was cold as a bastard. But here I was, sitting in the fence row, watching, waiting, and listening, and being as still as I possibly could. And then, naturally, the high-stakes game of whack-a-mole goes on. My first sight of deer, and she had come right down the hill face where I have sat in the past, and I had simply guessed the wrong trail. But while I was ready to completely write off the season, I suppose the visceral mystery goes on, and I might just keep hunting. So you better stay tuned. Well, with hunting, there's no guarantees. Life ain't like the pornos, hunting ain't like the TV shows. I may go out for another week of whitetail season here in Illinois before I just chalk it up. I'm not real sure. Not gonna lie to you, I don't know. But hunting is the visceral mystery, and there's not a damn thing that I can do about it. I really appreciate all of you that watch every week and stick with me on this quest. As always, God bless all my sportsmen of America. Join the NRA to protect our rights. Please check out my friends over at SOETacticalReader.com. Thank you very much to those of you involved in law enforcement and those of you serving in the military. And thanks for watching Tex Grebner Outdoors.